What's up, chat? How's it going? We're going to be doing a reaction video to a guy called on YouTube called Andy Pants Gaming. So definitely go check him out. This is all his own work. This is just my reaction to his video. All right. So yeah. Okay. Let's just check it out and see what he's got to say.
First time you saw GTA Vice City or God of War 2 or Call of Duty, you first tasted the thrill of doing anything you wanted in a game, or being a Spartan warrior, or being dropped into World War II. Back in 2003, we all probably said something like this: man, if games look like this now, imagine how cool they will be in 20 years. Well, did you ever?
We did all have that whole thing, especially with the Halo movement. I remember watching I think it was Halo Reach in 2011, thinking, wow, man, the future's going to be so bright. It's going to be so bright. It's going to be amazing. You know, if gaming carries on this astronomical level, then we were in for a treat, you know. And I remember thinking that gaming can't go anywhere. It's never going to die. The media is always going to be around, and we're just in for it, man. You got to strap in. You know, the future's going to be cray cray. You know.
Imagine the tech 20 years later would be used to perfectly render some ugly Boldyke's lip hair in Last of Us 2.
Shut up. Welcome to the path. Stepping through that door means you think your magic is strong enough to issue a challenge to the Pentasod.
Or give you a sermon about using pronouns correctly.
So, I'm non-binary.
Or make every single character gay and black now. Nothing highlights the fact that AAA Western game studios are full of women, Redditors, and dudes with tampons up their asses, like the fact they can't even do a remake without putting their evil politics into it. The Mass Effect remaster nerfed.
I do think that gaming modern stuff has become quite political. Personally, I'm a little bit more 50-50 with the whole thing. If a storyline's good, it should stand up on its own merit. It shouldn't be squished. It should stand up on its own merit. And at the moment, it's, you know, tick, we've got this, tick, we've got that, tick, we got this, tick, we got that. And it seems to be that they don't want to tell good stories anymore, chat. They don't want to tell good stories anymore. They just got this agenda and they're pushing it on you. Anyway, let's get back to it.
Nerfed all the women's asses because toxic masculinity. The Dead Space remake added a bunch of woke shit like trans bathrooms, race swapping, and making characters gay for no reason. Silent Hill 2 made the main chick ugly and removed anything edgy from the game. Oblivion added body type A and B. Resident Evil 4, despite mostly being good, took out Leon's ultra bass line, "Sorry, but following a lady's lead isn't my style." God help us if they ever get their hands on Dead Rising. Oh wait, they screwed that one up too. Boys, we gave them a chance and they screwed it up. I don't trust remasters anymore. All you're paying them to do is add 60 FPS and pay some gender studies major to take out anything edgy. Just get the old 2005 game from your local game store. That's the only thing I trust anymore. So boys, in my other videos, I think I have firmly cemented the fact that wokeness and political indoctrination have ruined video games and removed anything edgy, sexy, funny, and cool from games. What I want to talk about in this video is some of the other things that are ruining video games, in my opinion. Number one, the death of creativity. Every game is the same now and no risks are taken anymore. Number two, technology and the death of talent. Programmers and people who make games are objectively worse at their jobs now. Number three, women. That's the entire point. Women. The hiring of women has caused the downfall of video games. Number four, the death of political neutrality. Games used to not ram their politics down your throat and skillfully skirted around political issues. Now every game is a...
I disagree with that greatly. Right. So if you go back, he says that allowing women into gaming has killed it. Well, no, it hasn't. What, in my opinion, slightly different. I believe that what has killed modern day gaming isn't the woke agenda, really. I don't think it's that. Yes, it's in the games, of course. It's in everything. It's in TV shows. It's in, it's on the internet, on websites, It's getting the channels of communication open for people that have complex issues around their identity. It gives them a sense of not being alone, and I think that's really important. But I also think, and this is my 2 cents, I also think that women haven't killed gaming. You got to remember, in the early 2000s, and I lived through the early 2000s, so gaming at this point was on the upward spiral because of the fact that we had seen online gaming come out to the masses first time. So instantly there was this new technology where everybody could play together wherever you are in the world with Xbox Live and the PSN network. It was amazing. It was new. It was innovative. It was like futuristic. It was awesome. Okay. And the other thing you had is you still had the old guard there that were making video games because they were passionate. And the problem is Bungie being a prime example with Halo, and other titles and other games as well. And you also didn't have the big suits in there, right? Okay, so what happened was when live service games started becoming a thing, we all know when that was, Call of Duty, Warzone in 2019, obviously Fortnite. I don't know, I've never really played Fortnite, so I couldn't honestly tell you about it. But Fortnite, that came to the forefront. Live service games, they saw how much money they could make, and then the suits moved in, and that's basically what happened. I don't think it's about hiring women. This guy's a little bit misogynistic, in my opinion. I think you've got to be a bit respectful. As long as everyone's respectful, I'm happy. It's when you start pointing the finger, going, "It's not right because of you." That's that. In my opinion, that's out of line, man. You don't be doing that to people. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Gay indoctrination seminar on your communist nonsense. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, the death of creativity and fun. Guys, what do Fortnite, Call of Duty, Rainbow Six, Halo, Overwatch, Valorant, and every live service shooter have in common? At their core, they are all the same game. What do I mean by that? Well, the system of rewards and progression are the exact same. Seasonal updates, battle passes, microtransactions, dailies, weeklies, monthlies, new maps, new heroes, Simpsons collab, Beavis and Butthead collab.
We were just saying about
no matter
this,
where
weren't
you
we?
go, you're actually just playing the same goy slop over and over, and they want you on this retarded Skinner box because that's what gets them the most money. Duh, make a number go up. Boys, let's go back to 2005. Think about this. There was a time that Resident Evil 4 didn't exist, and Shinji Mikami woke up and was like, I think I'll make the best game on Earth today. Resident Evil 4 is packed with interesting and varied gameplay, excellent survival horror mechanics, damsels in distress to save like Ashley Graham, but also hot badass women like Ada Wong. The game is over the top and cheesy like a 2000s action movie with Leon delivering sick lines like, no thanks, bro. In RE4, you are the badass and everyone depends on you. It's great. Games in the 2000s just went for it, dude. In BioShock, you find yourself in this underwater city in a world created by this...
Right, okay. In the early 2000s, they went for it. Yeah, because again, it was the old guard that I was telling you about that was still in the industry. Okay, it was before live service, and people didn't go for it. It was a question of going for it and succeeding, like Resident Evil 4, or going for it and failing. And the thing was, people had no choice, because, in 2004, when Resident Evil 4 came out, I think it was, quote me if I'm wrong, there was nothing to lose. These guys were passionate, but this guy's being a bit full on. Right, let's go back, let's check it out.
Ayn Rand follower Andrew Ryan. The game looked incredible and had an interesting philosophy behind the entire world. In Urban Chaos Riot Response, you are a sort of cop who just beats the shit out of rioters. It's a shooter, but you have all these other mechanics too. You rescue people, secure city blocks, disarm bombs. There's nothing like this out today. In the game 13, you are an amnesiac badass protagonist, kind of like Jason Bourne. Devil May Cry 1, you play as the badass, edgy Dante, just beating up demons and being an edgelord and saving hot chicks. Something people like to say here is that the problem is solely
we have
with
to evolve
AAA
as a
and, quote,
species.
indie games will save us. And I'm going to disagree with you there. Xbox Game Pass is like 90% successful indie games, and I can literally look at a screenshot and immediately tell you which genre that has already been done 1,000 times said game fits into. Oh, did you want to play a crafting survival game? Well, there's Minecraft, Palworld, Core Keeper, Abiotic Factor, Conan Exiles, Ark, Valheim, Subnautica, The Forest, No Man's Sky, 7 Days to Die, Terraria, Astroneer. Boys, am I the only one who played like one of these games and I had enough of them? If I never had to find 10 wolf pelts to make one wolf medallion and 10 wolf medallions to make one wolf gem, I would be good for the rest of my life. Or did you want another indie tactics game? Well, you have 20,000 tactics games to choose from. Gears Tactics, Wargroove 2, Final Fantasy Tactics, Metal Slug Tactics, Midnight Suns, Wasteland, Phoenix Point, Warhammer Rogue Trader, War Tales, XCOM 2, Triangle Strategy. I'm tired, boss. I'm tired of tactics games. Honestly, XCOM 2 was the best one I ever played, and we should have just stopped after that. What about indie 2D platformers? Definitely not swamped with those. We only have Shovel Knight, Grizz, Celeste, Pizza Tower, Katana Zero, The Messenger, Super Meat Boy, Hollow Knight, Ori, Planet of Lana, Rain World, and the list goes on for miles. See, you guys who push indie games, I will agree there are quite a few good indie games out there, but 85% of indie games are just slop as well. It's city builder slop or tactics slop or indie platformer slop. Don't even get me started on auto battler games like Vampire Survivors and how everything is just a Vampire Survivor clone now. Ball Pit, Halls of Torment, Brotato, Enter the Gungeon, Neon Abyss, Megabonk, Risk of Rain. Don't get me started on Portal clones, Cube, Antichamber, We Were Here, Talos Principle, Turing Test, Superliminal. Boys, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that AAA gaming is overrun with gay communists, women, politics, microtransactions, and a lack of creativity. Indie games are overrun with the fact every game is...
Right. Okay. I think also you got to remember AI is a thing now, obviously as well. So obviously these guys put in their criteria of what they want to accomplish, and I think AI does probably about 80% of the work, with a vague outline. I do think there's a lot of games on the market that are very similar. Hence why I'm surrounded by video games consoles from the 90s and 2000s because I love them. Really, because they are raw, they are hard. You know, let's think of some for a minute. Siphon Filter. I mean, could you imagine a game like that nowadays on today's political landscape where the CIA is trying to kill you because you've discovered too much information or about something you shouldn't have? You wouldn't get that now. I do think in the 90s, you know, GoldenEye, that gameplay on that on the N64, elite. I think, you know, you got Medal of Honor, which for the PlayStation, which was again elite. You know, the world has moved on from the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, and yeah, obviously there's a certain degree of nostalgia there because I grew up through it. But at the same time, if we don't push the boundaries and try things new, then things are going to get repetitive anyway. But I do think modern gaming is definitely is circling the drain, let's be honest. Right, let's get back to it, chat.
Just copying every other game now. There is such a massive lack of true originality in all games these days. Guys, here are a few games that were made prior to the existence of the smartphone. Nobody had a smartphone and they came up with these ideas. Portal. It single-handedly created the first-person puzzle genre. Half-Life. It's the most influential first-person game of all time and reinvented the first-person shooter by fusing seamless storytelling, world-building, physics, AI, and a believable world design. Assassin's Creed. There was nothing like it when it came out, and it has lived on for 20 more years. Halo.
Assassin's Creed was good. It's always been good. I've got all the Assassin's Creeds. They're very good games, but I'm not going to lie. Ubisoft did push the envelope with continuously releasing them and releasing them and releasing them. And to be honest, it is boring as now. But the ones from the early 2000s were very good.
It not only revolutionized shooters, but revolutionized specifically console shooters and how they should feel to play. Metal Gear Solid. It was
Classic.
the first 3D stealth game, and it would literally create the stealth genre, which would be copied by everyone. GTA 3. It's often credited with creating the first open world game that felt like a, quote, real place, meaning you could completely ignore the main missions and do what you want and have fun. GTA is definitely one of the most influential video games of all time.
These games were all so good that they spawned an entire generation of copycats. Why is nothing in gaming truly as original as any of these games were anymore? Boys,
Because
here's
they've
the
been
thing
done.
I'm trying to understand that will perfectly lead into my next point. Why has technology gotten better and things became more accessible, and yet games have gotten objectively worse? You would think that with more internet and more cell phones, people would be smarter and make better stuff, but the opposite has happened. Cell phones have made us dumber and lazier and less creative. I mean, for God's sake, look at the cathedrals of the 1400s. They did this without the internet, and nobody is even capable of making these today. So this leads perfectly to point number 2, technology and the death of talent. But before we talk about that, I want to tell you guys about a based military game that never went woke, and that is the based military vehicle combat game.
All right, let's just skip on a bit. Don't really
All
want to be
for
advertised
completely
to.
free. All right, back to the video. Sometimes I read the books of my enemies, and so I recently read Jason Schreier's book about Blizzard entitled Play Nice. He, of course, blames capitalism and sexism for the downfall of Blizzard, but it's so incredibly obvious. Blizzard was a bunch of dudes in the 90s, and now it's a bunch of shrill, purple-haired women and men in dresses. That's it. That's why it sucks now. Guys, in the 90s and early 2000s, Blizzard was goated. Blizzard created Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, and in 2014, Hearthstone. Schreier often references the frat boy culture of the early Blizzard days, but guess what, Chief? They made amazing games. In 2002, a standard computer had 256 megabytes of RAM, and a bunch of dudes created World of Warcraft on that computer. If you remember my contact at Ubisoft in 2011, when he started there, if somebody had a terrible idea in a large group meeting, everybody would just laugh at the guy and roast him in public. Fast forward to 2020, and it was a bunch of women and male feminists, and you would get written up for making fun of somebody. Jumping over to Vince Zampinella at Infinity Ward, in 2000...
But it's not just video games. It's the world that we live in. We're evolving as a species. You know, you have to kind of evolve. Otherwise, you get left behind. And when you get left behind, that's not a very nice place to be, I would imagine. You know, you can't... You know, yes, these guys did great games, but they didn't do great games just because they were men. They did great games because at the time, yes, we didn't have so much technology and creativity was probably a thing. But the reason why we did so well, right, is because we didn't have smartphones in our pockets at the time in the 90s. We didn't have that continuously always online. And when people don't have that continuous dopamine hit, they're continuously, I would imagine, this is just my 2 cents, they're probably pushing themselves to the maximum, and they're pushing themselves to be the best that they could be, and they want to do it for their bros, you know. But whereas today there's a very different culture, and it's good that you got women in this space, because if it's all bros, then it all ends up like Gears of War, you know. And that was a great game, early 2000s again. Cliff Belinsky again. He did the first Gears of War, and it was a smash hit. I got it up there on the shelf. Great game. But it wasn't a great game because it was all men. It was a great game because it was a really great storyline, you know. Yeah, I think you got to be a bit. I think you can't blame it on any one thing, but laziness in society. That's what I think it is. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, interesting.
2007, they pushed the Xbox 360 to its absolute limit to achieve 60 FPS on console with COD 4. Did a bunch of women do this? No, it was a bunch of sweaty, try-hard dudes in a room.
Yeah, but women
Guys,
can
what I
do
want to
it.
express here is that the game developers in the 2000s were simply a different breed than the game
They were
developers
passionate.
now.
That's
And
what
we've
they
seen
were.
this primarily in ballooning of game file sizes, in poor optimization of games, and in games in 2025 honestly looking worse than games from 2016. Go back and look at these two games. The Division came out in 2016 and Red Dead Redemption 2 came out in 2018. Then go look at the crap that's coming out now, like Assassin's Creed Shadows and Veilguard that just came out last year. Bro, the 2016 and 2018 games look better than crap that is coming out in 2025. And it's because they're hiring bad programmers and because they're hiring women. That is the only reason why
No,
this is
dude.
happening.
No.
If you came up as a game
Right. Okay. Let's sort that out. It's not because they're women, right? It really isn't. It's because people have got lazy and they're using AI to do a lot of the donkey work. So they're using AI. This is my opinion. They're using AI to do the majority of the work. That's what they're doing, and then no one's going back and checking it. Hence, when the cat jumped onto the girl's lap, there was no pause, and I think it was. What was it called? That game, Cyberpunk. When that got released, that was an absolute mess. Again, because I reckon they used AI, in its infancy nowadays, to do the majority of the work. It's like Halo Combat Evolved. It's just gone through a AI upscaler. No one's physically been there and drawn every little thing. They made the new engine. They plonk the original file of the game into an AI upscaler that does all the donkey work for them, and then they release it, and nobody checks it. And I can guarantee you that game will have more bugs in it than a tropical aquarium. I'm telling you. Right, let's go back. But this guy is very chauvinistic, I think. Yeah, man. But hey, this is the beauty of the world. We've all got difference of opinion, guys.
Developer in 2005, you number one didn't get into this for the money, you simply had passion for it, but number two, you probably knew how to code COBOL on a toaster. Everything I've read about developers and programmers at game studios in 2025 has told me that they're more focused on misgendering somebody than they are doing their job. Every time I've applied for a job in tech, they highlight things like Black Girls Who Code, in which they're telling you that if you're an evil white man, the company is going to actively discriminate against you, which is somehow legal in America right now. Now, I wonder if the fact that the Nissan Altima is the number one vehicle involved in traffic accidents could indicate this is a bad idea. Nah, couldn't be. All you have to do is look at group photos of development companies like Activision and Naughty Dog, and are we still wondering why games run like shit now, dudes? Now let me zoom out for a minute and contrast this with the narrative that we have been told. What have we been told by Ubisoft and Naughty Dog again and again? They say, games cost more to make now than they did 20 years ago. To which I always want to respond with, yes, but the technology has gotten better, so you should actually need less people. Guys, explain this to me. Uncharted 2 was made by 70 people. It's one of the greatest games of all time. No wokeness, ultra-based. Last of Us 2 was made by 3,000.
Right, okay. Now, the reason why they say it takes more people to make games nowadays, well, probably true. You got to also understand there's a lot of greediness in the market as well, because the Suits moved in, haven't they? Remember that, chat? Suits.
People and was woke garbage and sold terribly. Let's try this again. Halo 3 was made by a team of 200 people. It had multiplayer, co-op, Forge, and campaign on launch. The file size was 6.5 gigabytes total. Halo Infinite was made by 900 people. The file size is 100 gigabytes big. It only had campaign on launch, and it was full of woke homosexual garbage. Now, do you want me to prove that games don't actually take that many people to make? Expedition 33.
By the way, I didn't think Halo Infinite was woke, but I thought the little Spanish guy was just annoying as hell. Like, he just irritated me. I could have quite easily played the game without that Spanish guy. Oh, Chief. Oh, yes, we got the power back on and all that. What? And his family, like, right. That irritated me on Halo Infinite, right? Because the simple fact that this Spanish dude, right, is there celebrating and sat there looking at, like, I don't know, some futuristic picture frame of his family and reminiscing. Like, the thing is, we've just met this guy. Why do I care about his family? I don't care about him. We've just met him. You know, did he ever help Chief out? No. All he was a washerwoman. But some people say there was some homosexual thing going on there. I personally didn't experience that. I enjoyed the game. The campaign was, yeah, it wasn't the greatest campaign in the history of gaming, but it's Chief. We've got to support our boy. But it was atrocious. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best. Now, was that not the best because of the simple fact that, you know, 343 Studios dropped the ball? Well, I'll tell you right now, it wasn't the best because whoever, male or female or whatever, no one did their job. That's why it was no good. It was nothing to do with males and females, but there was somewhat of an agenda going on, I think. Right, let's go back to the video chat.
Team of 40 people made that game, and it's up for Game of the Year. Arc Raiders. They removed pretty much all the woke shit from the game, and if you're a base shooter, bro, you already know this because you're playing it. Tiny team of 60 people made Arc Raiders. Void Interactive. The guys who made Ready or Not, 60 people, dude. The game has sold 13 million copies. Dude, with an average price of $50 for each copy of Ready or Not, that means that each employee could have $10 million. I'm sure they didn't split it up that way, but that's nuts. So homosexual men who worship the devil and are super triggered by the facts I say, like Ryan Beard, Actman, Angry Joe, Dead Domain, and the rest of these weak beta cuck men will say...
Right, I disagree with this. I mean, Actman, I do watch his videos. I really have a lot of love and a lot of respect for Actman. I think he's a really great guy, and I would love to befriend him. Angry Joe he's not actually Mexican. The dude said to be Mexican, pretends to be Mexican. Angry Joe. What can you say about Angry Joe? I like Angry Joe. I think he's been a YouTube staple. I mean, I've watched his videos for years, you know, and supported Joe as well through liking his videos and subscribing to his channel, you know, just like you guys subscribe to mine. But I don't think they're what he called them, cacks. I don't know. I think the other female, the girl, I don't know who that is, but I think this guy is misogynistic as hell, man. I think you find men like this, by the way, chat. Men like this are usually the ones that are gay, and there's nothing wrong with being gay, but they're so aggressive and alpha male and this is my opinion, you know, the Andrew Tates of the world, that they are the ones who are gay, you know. No problem with being gay, but then that's why they have such deep-seated views on homosexuality and wokeism and stuff, is because they are what they're trying to portray, you know.
Things like this. Greed is ruining games. Capitalism bad. Nah, bro. Capitalism is why Ready or Not exists. Capitalism is why Arc Raiders exists. Capitalism is why Marvel Rivals exists. These people work their ass off not to give these games away for free, but to charge money for them. Do you think anybody works that hard to get nothing in return? No, they do it for money. So this is why I'm saying greed is not the true evil in the games industry today. Laziness and wokeness are. If Naughty Dog has truly been motivated by capitalism, they would have made Last of Us 2 with Joel as the hero and made $1 billion off of it. But because Naughty Dog is pure evil incarnate, they killed the straight main character and he replaced him with a degenerate lesbian. Now, Ubisoft is just lazy with a little bit of evil. Ubisoft thought they could lazily milk Assassin's Creed for 20 years, and they mostly did, but the problem is they added arrogance on top of their laziness and went fully woke with Assassin's Creed Shadows. The game flopped hard, and they may never recover as a company. So, in my opinion, greed actually leads to good games. It's laziness. Laziness is why microtransactions exist. But, guys, back to my point about technology. Tiny teams of people.
Right, I'd just like to stress at this point, chat, right, that in the early 2000s, we did have microtransactions. The Xbox 360, Gears of War 2 and 3, we had microtransactions. You could go and get the Golden Lancer for Gears of War 3. We also had microtransactions in Call of Duty, map packs. You could see them creeping in, right? Okay. Is it laziness? Yeah, I think to a certain degree. There's probably a certain degree of laziness in there. I think games back then, there was a bit of there was more passion then than there is now. Now it's just tripe and AI doing the majority of the work. But hey, I'm just repeating myself. Let's get back to it.
People are making incredible games right now. Expedition 33, Arc Raiders, Ready or Not, all incredible games made by tiny teams who are using technology in smart ways. AAA companies have lied to us.
They're small companies
They've
and they're
said
passionate,
development
chat.
costs keep rising. Nah, bro. The price of your DEI seminars and hiring black women as coders have created inefficiencies in your companies, and that's why games suck now. If there's one thing that has been proven true time and time again, it's that a group of 50 super talented dudes can pretty much make the best game on earth, regardless of what year it is. Don't hire women, hire talented men, and your game will be successful.
I don't think
And
it's
this
anything
leads
to
me
do
to
with
point
sex.
number 3. There's too many women in the game industry. So this one is going to be super short because I've kind of already said everything I want to say about it. But what it really comes down to is that men simply work better together in high-stress environments that women do, and this has been proven by 1,000 studies. My buddy at Ubisoft said that over the course of his 10 years at Ubisoft Montreal, which is the premier studio, that you can be direct with men unless you're dealing with a pussy. You literally just walk over to the dude's desk and tell him what he got wrong. But women get butthurt and vindictive when you correct them. They start gossiping about you and contacting HR when you're simply trying to do your job and you want the best work possible. I've noticed over many years working in the corporate world that most women are incapable of not taking shit personally. Occasionally, I would meet a woman who didn't take shit personally, and it was great to work with, and that was awesome. But the vast majority of women and men who dress up as women get their fragile little feelings hurt way too much. The guys who made COD 4 with Vince Zampella in 2007, this wasn't an environment where people were coddled. It was dudes day after day trying to push the medium forward and probably roasting each other and working their asses off. Women simply can't survive in this kind of frat boy environment. All right, on to my final point, number 4, the death of political neutrality. Gears of War.
Right, okay, so I personally don't believe, I don't believe that. I think if you have women, right, in the work environment with men and a nice equal balance, I think, yeah, you can make a good game. I mean, why not? I mean, I think all bros together is just a bit too weird. I don't get me wrong, me personally, I get on better with women than I do men. Don't mind hanging around with men. I have male friends, but at the same time, I do prefer the company of females. That's my personal preference. Now, I think women are have a lot more to bring to the table than what this dude's saying. I think he's definitely got an Andrew Tate about him, and yeah, I don't like that.
1 is a great game. It's based, it's edgy, it's masculine. Now, it was made by Cliffy B. Cliffy is not a conservative, but as far as I know, he was liberal in the 90s. Now, how could a liberal man who I would usually call gay make an ultra-based game in 2005? Boys, he was able to do this because movies and video games used to understand how to focus on fun and good storytelling and not focus on politics. Gears 1 starts with Marcus in jail because he deserted his post. He's a flawed protagonist, but he gets reinstated into Delta Squad and he cares about the people around him and is fighting for them. He's also fiercely loyal to Dom, Cole, and Baird. These men put their politics aside because they've got bugs to fight. Today, Marcus, Cole, and Dom would be called fascists because they're protecting their country from an invasion. This meme made me laugh the other day. Leftists are identifying with literal bugs again. But my point in saying all this is that being a fan of your own nation should not be a controversial take. By modern leftist standards, every character in Gears of War 1 is
Right, I do think that politics in gaming has no place. Right, we all play video games to escape from reality. You know, some people like to drink, some people, you know, do other things, some people go to the gym, you know, whatever you want to do in life to escape, more power to you, man. But like at the end of the day, I don't think politics has any place in gaming. But this guy is something else. Let's get back to it.
a fascist because they were fighting for their own country. Leftists will call you a fascist if German people are pro-Germany or English people are pro-England. And this is why leftists are truly brain-dead retards, and they need to come back more towards the middle. Another game that skillfully doesn't come across as preachy or promoting any political viewpoint is Fallout New Vegas. You can be a literal Nazi, aka Caesar's Legion, in Fallout New Vegas, or you can side with the NCR, who are messed up in their own way, or you can be a total pussy and side with the followers of the apocalypse. Another weird old game that I think did politics right is Brute Force on the OG Xbox. I'm sure like 1% of people have played this game, but the main characters are Tex, Helm, Flint, and Juno. 2 of the characters are chicks, which I don't mind as long as they're hot or serve a purpose. Over the course of the game, you realize these 4 characters...
The misogyny is getting a bit much for me now. Like, you know, there's so many, like, awesome women from history. I mean, you got Boudica, who was an ancient Briton who went around slaying Roman soldiers, you know, and that's the real woman. You've got, you know, females that used to fight in the Viking shield wars. You know, women have been doing everything that men have been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years. It was only because of the expansion of Christianity into Europe that put women back in the kitchen and repressed them. But saying that these women are okay in my video game because they're hot, like they're a bloody drawing, dude. They're a drawing on a computer. Like, I never got this about blokes. You know, maybe I'm just being weird, but I mean, you know, we all loved Lara Croft, you know, Tomb Raider. She was, you know, attractive, but she is just a drawing. Yeah, she's from somebody's imagination. She's not real. Apart from the Angelina Jolie in the movie. That was hot. That was real hot. Because she was a real life woman. She was, you know, she was hot because she was a real life woman. You know, but Lara Croft in the actual video games is actually a drawing. This guy is so misogynistic, man.
Disagree on politics. But here's the awesome thing Brute Force does. Everybody comes together for a common cause. Boys, that used to be how America was. Yes, we can disagree on politics, but we can come together to fight real evil. We don't live in a country like that anymore. Leftists in America today are endorsing true evil. The hatred of white people is wrong. Americans hating on America are wrong. Chopping off children's genitals is wrong. Pushing critical race theory and queer gender studies on young children is wrong.
Right, okay, so let's have a look at this, right? So hating on someone for being white, well, hating on someone for being any colour, in my opinion, is wrong. You know, regardless if they're white, brown, black, green, purple, whatever. You shouldn't be hating on anyone, chat. You shouldn't be hating on anyone. Bringing America, America, I'm not going to get involved in that. You know, American issues for American problems. Chopping kids' genitals, well, again, if somebody, you know, is in that stage in their life whether they feel that they're in the wrong body, maybe give it a few years until they're older, give them the support that they need, and let them make the decision, a more informed decision when they're a bit older. And lying about biology, you know, yeah, well, all I can do is remember my schooling, you know, and that's it, you know. I'm not going to get into that one. I'm going to skirt around the outside. Oh, sorry, pushed the wrong button. Let's get back to it.
So what I'm hoping comes up in the next few years is more leftists wake up and come back towards the middle. Who knows? Maybe even Act-Man will give his life to Christ one day and repent of being gay. So, boys, in closing, sometimes people ask me when I think the wokeness began, and I really think it was around 2018. Everything after 2018 seems to have gone woke, and most everything before seems to be good. I think what really happened is games got away from simply trying to be fun and switched to games trying to figure out how to monetize everything. A great
that I
example
would
is the
agree with.
Arkham series. Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight were truly just trying to be the most fun games imaginable and essentially had zero microtransactions. Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights were the opposite. They aren't actually fun games to play at all, and on top of that, they're just trying to monetize players that never existed. Another great game from the classic era of gaming is Mad Max from 2015. This is one of the last AAA games I remember coming out that truly just focused on being a very fun experience for the player and introducing fun mechanics. Most of Mad Max is literally just you firing a harpoon at a tower and yanking that tower down with your car. It's just a very fun mechanic. And it requires no microtransactions. It's just a fun game to play, period. Just Cause 3 comes to mind as well. The mechanics and the grappling hook and the way you get around in that game is just fun. Taking down enormous towers and blowing stuff up with incredible looking physics. And there's no politics in these games. They're just really fun games. If I had to say one final thing that I think is killing video games today, it would be that game developers today are no longer primarily focusing on what makes a game fun and are instead focusing on what other game they can copy and how they can monetize it. It really all comes down to that. I think on the surface, what is often called greed is actually really just laziness. We should have gotten a second Mad Max game or a fourth Arkham game, and they would have sold crazy and been awesome, and it would have made those companies a lot of money. So maybe one day soon, they will fire all the women and get back to making good games that prioritize fun and aren't mostly concerned with monetization. One more shout out to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Click the link in the description.
Okay, I think, some of what he said, and I mean something of what he said, I think is true. I do think they concentrate on repeating games. I think they do concentrate on how can they monetize it. I do think that the guys from the early 2000s are definitely gone now, and it is a bunch of people that aren't passionate. The suits have moved in, and it has become a live service. Let's milk everyone. Game Pass is a prime example of that. People didn't mind, when it was $12.99 a month here in England to pay for Game Pass. And we've just seen recently and then Xbox a couple of months ago with the Xbox price increase, and then the PlayStation's price increase. So we're seeing suits now trying to milk everybody, and that's annoying. We are being looked at now where gaming does seem to be a hobby for the rich, and I didn't want it to be like that. It does seem to be a hobby for the rich, and you could say, well, it doesn't matter what people are gaming on as long as they're gaming. Totally agree. So we'll go out and buy a GameCube, yeah. We'll go out and buy a GameCube for someone, who hasn't got much money, who wants to get into gaming. Oh no, wait, you can't afford that now because that's 140, 150 quid price mark because it's retro. So even the old consoles you can't get for people because obviously, the retro market's gone up through the roof. So you can ask yourself, well, how can you have an entry-level gaming setup? Well, you can get yourself an Xbox 360 for about 60 quid, 70 quid if you got that kind of money, especially in a cost of living crisis. You know what I'm saying? But no, that video was from a guy called Andy Pants Gaming. So if you want to go check out his content, go check it out. I'll tag him in this video. Yeah, man, I agree with some of what he says, but not everything. And the chauvinisticness, not cool, dude, not cool. If you're watching this, Andy, not cool. And the misogyny, not cool. Here at the Caveat Army, man, we have everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome from wherever they're from, whatever their background is, whatever their religion is. I don't care. I don't care. Do you know why I don't care? Because I have no business talking into your life like you have no business talking into mine. But this Andy Pants Gaming seems to have an opinion on everything. Interesting. Anyway, chat, it's been a pleasure. Have a good evening. Take care now.